या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शान्तिरूपेण संस्थिता या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता या देवी सर्वभूतेषु मातृरूपेण संस्थिता या देवी सर्वभूतेषु बुद्धिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः.
There, true bravery is only ever found where fear is strongest.
This shall play.
Hello and welcome to Extreme Gamerz. I am Yashodeep and with me I have Amit Roy and Sam Biswas. And we are extremely excited to welcome you guys to a stream where we have the founders of Nordic Hit Games and the developers of Raji, Avichal Singh, Shruti, Ghosh, Maude. So, with the launch of Raji on PC and consoles in just a few more days, I'm sure you guys are extremely proud of making such a wonderful game. So, can you please tell us how you came up with the idea of Raji?
Yeah, that's my cue. So how did we come up with the idea of Raji? It all starts with a trip to Jaisalmer, Rajasthan, at the New Year's Eve 2013, where I was in Jaisalmer in front of a place called Patwo Ki Haveli, a medieval palace from the early 18th century. And there was this frame where there were no people, wires, all sorts of distractions, but just that medieval architecture. And the first thing I asked myself is, why is this not a video game? And with that thought, and why I asked that to myself, because I've been a gamer and I was transitioning to a game developer during that time. I was in my final year, and that's where, when I went back to the design college where I was, I met Shruti, and Shruti had joined as an art lecturer, and she was teaching game art, and that's where we met, and that's where we figured we had some common grounds like the love for Bastion and Transistor and Supergiant games, and we knew we both were like-minded when it came to quality or when it came to doing something. We did try to work on a Counter-Strike map later, all three of us. That didn't work out as much because we were all busy, occupied with our lives. Ian also joined the college in late 2014, and that's where all of us met, and we all had this connection and the idea that one day maybe we'll do something. But that's it. For the next 2 years, we were gone. I graduated. I went to Zynga, Bangalore, and Shruti was there as an art trainer for a while, and then she left for EA Hyderabad as an art manager, and Ian was still stuck in Pune alone. So Ian was still teaching. Now 2 years later, what happened is we were working on what we were working at our respective companies, but there was I did pursue that idea of a very high level pitch. The first thing we did is a very high level pitch. The second thing which we did was Shruti made some 2D sketches which represented how the game's gonna look, and we took it to a close circle of friends, game developers, gamers, and we asked them, would you buy this? And they were having jaw-dropping reactions, wow, amazing, throwing their money. So we figured, we figured this is something worth pursuing, and that's where we took some bold decisions, and that was possible because we had a team forming. Our lead programmer joined us in around August 2016. Our sound designer joined us around the same time, and we had leads on our animator later. And Ian was here in Pune, so Shruti left her job in Hyderabad, came to Pune. I left Bangalore, I came to Pune. All of us were in Pune, and that's where it all started. And the first official, officially we started on Jan 10th. But the first unofficial meeting between us, our tech artist, animator, most of us, was in December 2016. That's when we decided we gotta work on a teaser first, which was fantastic to release it on 26th January, almost a month later. So that's then, it's a long story, but I don't want to answer all your rest of your questions, so I'll let you go.
Keep going, Avi, doing really well.
We are already having to cut short our next one anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were all in different companies before you made Raji. Ian was in Stainless, Blockstar, and then Ubisoft. Shruti was in EA, and Avichal was in Zynga. So can you please tell a bit about yourself and how did you come together to make this game?
Like, you've already answered a part of it, but tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Yes, a bit about yourself.
Shruti, go on.
True, please go.
So
Your humble beginnings.
yes, so I had a formal training, a degree in fine arts, painting. So from there, I did a small course in animation, and from there, I didn't look back, and I've always worked in the industry. So, but like I was one of the very few who, when the gaming teams were made in companies in India, like I was part of those small teams where mostly outsourcing work was going on. So games, so art, majorly art outsource came to India. That's how we gaming industry started in India. So I was usually part of those team, like games for Burnout, Dominator, then Open World, then NFS. So all these, I have worked on environments and props for those games. Then I worked on few other companies like Game Shastra, where we worked on PSP and PlayStation games. They were bundle games basically, and then some iOS games as well. And I worked in few other companies here and there. From there, I moved on to teaching in the school. That's where I met both of them. And then I left for EA. That's where I was heading the art marketing team and basically games like Visual and Tetris. So all that kind of work was being done. So and from there we all got together, and we took the risk of leaving our well-paid jobs and just put all our savings and everything to make a game that we thought was worth a story worth telling. We really wanted to make a game that tells story from India, thing that you wouldn't see in like mainstream games, and something that we felt was lacking, and we thought we could deliver the quality. We really wanted to put the quality.
We knew we could deliver the quality.
Yes, so we all got together and we made this game.
And Shruti is, just want to add, Shruti is also behind the art style of the game, and that comes from her art background, and that is something we all try to stick to, and that's where you get the unique look of Raji.
No, we worked really hard to attain that, and like True says, it comes from her background in fine art, and that's how we effectively swapped roles, because you've got more experience in characters, I've got more experience in environments, but what we did on this one was we just swapped roles, and I'd never done characters before.
Was it difficult?
Sorry?
Was it difficult swapping the roles?
Well, let's put it like this. The learning curve was like that. And I said to the team, give me 3 months to create the first character. 5 months later, I deliver. And then I think the whole team was like, thank God. And then the second character after that took me 3 weeks. So go figure with that one.
Ian, but go on about how you
I didn't realize
ended up in India.
I didn't realize we were going to go back till birth. So okay. So my humble beginnings started off at university doing graphic design illustration. I'd like to point out this was back in 19.
Don't give out your age now.
No. When did I do it?
Do what?
Just go on with your
95. There you go. And then
probably year they were born.
I wasn't born in 1995.
I was born a bit before that.
Yeah, me
well,
too.
there you go. I'm the oldest of the team.
He's called Grandpa.
Yeah, affectionately. They call me many other things behind my back. So I did graphic design illustration, but the course didn't allow me to do what I wanted, which was I wanted to see my work move. I wanted to interact with it, and at that point there was no video game courses, nothing like that. What we have today. So I learned what was it called then? Lightwave. It's called Maude now. And a friend of mine knew it. He gave me a crash course of 1 hour in it, and then he said, "Crack on," and I went, "Oh," and then I did it. And then what we did is, because I didn't know animation, in our final year we have to write our own briefs, and so I introduced animation to my course, if you like, and it's like I've got a decent grade for it, so I was quite happy about that. And then I went off to work for Stainless, and that's where I cut my teeth in the industry. And I cherished the time that I had with them for 2 years. After that, I went on to other studios, Acclaim, who else? Rockstar, Ubisoft. So then at 28, I decided to leave the UK, and I went to Austria to work with the guys over at Rockstar, and then from there I went over to Canada. I worked on both coasts, and then in 2011 I returned, and I was working actually as freelance actually for the Chinese room, and I was working on the prototype of Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. And then during that time I returned back to the UK, and I re-enlisted in the armed forces as a reservist. And during that period, because this is important to note, because if I'd actually gone on tour to Afghanistan, I probably wouldn't be here. And I did a wonderful thing in the gym. I destroyed my back, and I had to learn how to walk again. And that stopped me from going to Afghanistan. And so therefore, a job opportunity came along to teach in India. And so from that point on, I took the opportunity. And
Rest is history.
Rest is history.
Wonderful.
Avichal, can you tell us a bit about
Yeah,
it was really inspiring to hear about you.
Really, yeah.
So I'll start. Where should I start? First, let's start with my gamer self, and it all starts with a computer lab, I think, and first looking at 2D Prince of Persia and Dave and Aladdin, and waiting turns with your classmates to play them, and later finding that, oh, I'm addicted to these things. And so luckily there was a computer at home, and Road Rash, Age of Empires, all of these things came in line. I was a lot into MMOs. A3 India is one of them. And because of, I was a lot into gaming, Counter-Strike and any RTS I would just get my hands on. I was this kid my friends remember as cycling 20 kilometers to a cafe and through 2 over bridges without money, putting them in debt, just to end up playing a Counter-Strike 5v5. Okay, so with that, when I was, finally able to clear my 12th after a lot of struggle with studies, I was figuring out what I should do next, and I had this idea, whatever happens, I'm not doing engineering, because that's totally, I would prefer doing anything else but that. So I started Googling about what scopes there. So I did learn about what game design is. Okay. And the moment I read about that, or I started reading more about that, I was like, this is it. This is what's made for me. And I was lucky to come to Pune into the college, and that's where I started transforming myself from a gamer to a game designer. And I always looked out to do a bit extra compared to whatever else everyone was doing. So I have taken part in around 12 game jams during that era. And I also did level design for Counter Strike, Shogun 2, and probably some other games, and other editors. These are outside the curriculum. That's why I'm still remember them. What's inside the curriculum? There's a lot of other stuff.
That happens.
Yeah, and yes. So after, as you know, well, it's all happened in college, and I did talk a lot about this to my friends in Bangalore and Pune, and they message me now, and it's a great feeling to see that I was able to complete this vision with Ian, Shruti, and rest of the team. That we made an Indian game that reached out to the masses, and it worked out. That's all. Like, that's what I want to say.
Right. Yeah. So hi, Amit here. So we heard that there was a very small team who actually made this game, made the whole game, which in itself is a very humongous task, to be honest. So, like, can you please tell us about the other people who were involved in this journey with you, and how this whole journey with the team came together and made this game into a reality?
Who wants to go?
Okay. So we are a team of 13 members. It's three of us, as well as Paras, our lead programmer, Deepam, our console programmer, and then Jale, who is our tech artist, then Shreyas, who is our other environment 3D artist, then David, who is our other character artist with Ian, Anirudh, our concept artist, then our animator, in-game animator, Himanshu, and then our cutscene animator, he is from Australia, Isaac, and then our sound designer, composer, Linus, he is from Greece, and did I forget anyone?
Yes, Ted.
David.
Ted.
From Brazil.
Yeah,
who
I did
is
say
the
about
VFX
David, I
artist.
just forgot Ted.
Oh, okay.
Is our VFX artist. He's from Brazil. So this is the entire team that has made the game. But initially, when we did the Kickstarter demo, it was just six of us. It was just like really. It was just Paras, us three, Himanshu, and our sound designer, and there was help from our concept artists and a little bit from.
Oh God, yeah, and he was with us from day one.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just a blur.
Yeah, there were seven members who worked together for almost 18 months. So here's something a lot of people have misconception or do not know about it. How we see the project is, for the first 10 months we worked on the Kickstarter demo, which is 7 members, and after that demo we went through a lot of financial struggle to find funds for the game, and during that period almost no production was being done because believe me, finding money, I've said this in other interviews, is the hardest thing you'll ever do for your project. And to do that, it takes everything from you, and the amount of stress that comes with it is insane because you're working on with a date, and beyond that, there's nothing. So only in 2018 October is when we officially kicked off, and we were able to expand to 13 members. So the production of Raji, an ancient epic on what people are playing, was done in around 18 months. And that's what people don't know. And we keep reading about people commenting, saying 3 years, 4 years,
whatever.
And I'm like, I really wish we had 3 years.
If we all had the time 3 years, then this game would have been a completely different more of a higher
Right.
thing that we
Yeah,
could have.
we have as a team we have this ability to keep pushing ourselves, and you can say feature creep till an
I
extent.
was about to say that actually. It's called feature creep, Avi. And
No.
you and I are really bad for that.
I'm talking about the quality, not
No, I
just features.
Just teasing.
Just even the graphics or how the games looks, how the game feels, and what even any inch we could make better. We did our best before the Switch launch, and that was an insane amount of crunch. But we are glad with what we have, and yeah, that's all.
But I would just like to add that it's been 18 months of like total slog where we hardly had any sleep and just constantly eat.
Especially this year.
Yeah.
This year is like gone.
Exactly.
It's over.
Yeah.
For us, when did it
I
start?
think it only happened because we had this good team, and it is, when we look back on it, it is something that we've achieved is pretty impossible to do it with such a small team in such a limited time. And I think it's like really hats off to the entire team that everybody has pulled off. Like
Well,
they
just pull lots of
and-
rabbits out of hats.
yeah, like we've put in, because I guess everybody had that same passion for the project. Everybody could see that this is the end, that we need to make this dream come true. So everybody put their hard work in. Unless we had that, we couldn't have reached where we have. We couldn't have finished Raji within the time. So yeah.
And a lot of team members and how we operate is, or we had to, there was no other option. We do multiple jobs. So Ian has not just worked on characters, he's worked on lighting, and he's also worked on environments when it came to polishing. And Shruti, Ian and me, we all have worked on story a lot. The entire story is what you guys see in the game, but there's a lot of background to where it came from, and a lot of iteration and a lot of back and forth between our narrative writer and our voice actors. And
Cutscenes, the whole thing, storyboarding, everything. It's
yeah, even concept artist Ani has taken part in the story. Even rest of the team has taken part in the story. So yeah, it's definitely a lot that the team was able to handle, and that it's extremely proud of the caliber of the team.
But don't forget, though, us three have been responsible for running the company.
Yeah, that's true.
Sourcing everything, and that is a very difficult job to do.
There were times, there were times like I ended up come to the studio at 10:30, and at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. it's like all my work is not related to game design or level design. It has been either related to project manager or about the company, and that really used to annoy me. So to catch up, you have to give extras or weekends, and which we even had a joke, we don't have any weekends anymore. But in the end, it was good. I mean, we had a lot of learnings. So yeah.
Yeah. So especially this like the last few months, especially in this year, as expectedly has been like the business end of the project, and in this scenario of this COVID situation, so I guess you are having to work remotely. So how that's been a challenge to you guys? How are you coping up with that challenge?
Yeah, it's
communication is one.
Yeah, in the studio, our console team and all of us are at the same place. So you could just turn around and give solutions or tell about a problem. And now you have to formulate it on Slack. We use Slack. And consoles have to be shifted with our tech team, which is Jalay and Deepam. And when it came to the submission for Switch and even for PlayStation, Xbox, it's around 14 kilometers here. But I will say the road's not very nice, especially during the monsoon. And we had to do back and forth, me and Paras, the lead programmer. And at still some point you don't mind it, but it became a pretty much everyday thing for 2 weeks. And yeah, that plus the team is used to working remotely. Isaac, our 2D cutscene animator, is in Australia. Ted is in Brazil. Linus is in Greece. Anirudh is in Jaipur. Shreyas is in Ratnagiri. And I think that's all the people who are there.
Calcutta.
David is in Calcutta. And now all of us are like a few kilometers away. We're not in the studio anymore. But we did a pretty good job. And when the COVID situation started is when our crunch, we were always in crunch, but the even more intense crunch started. Because now this is the deadline by Nintendo. There's no way to mess it, right? So when everyone was like, oh, we are back home, there's extra time spending with family, playing games, this and that, the whole thing that happened in the early few months of lockdown, we were like, it's like a show going on and we're just working, and we're not able to relate with anyone else. And now I think we are at a much better place. The stress levels have gone down.
Well, they're still there, but just a little bit less.
Way less.
Just got used to it.
Something I just want to touch on what Shruti was mentioning about, rabbits out of hats and so on, and the achievements of what we've done, and the fact that not only have we made a game. Initially, the game was meant to be 24 months. We reduced it down to 14 months to look viable to other publishers. This is in the very early stages. And then what we've done is we've gone back to the 24-month schedule and put that into what is now like the 18-month dev cycle because we wanted to and because we had to, and also to make a greater impression on the international game dev map. Because we are representing India and it's also breaking stereotypes as well.
Right.
And what I want to say is kudos to our team as well, because we ported the games ourselves. We didn't go to outsourcers, we've done it ourselves. And
one of the reasons we wanted to do it ourselves is because we wanted to do it well. And I think looking at what we have ready for Xbox and PS4 is fantastic. I
mentioned about the Switch though, because we didn't get that very late on, and that was in customs for quite a long time, and we got a great big email thread with all that. And
customs is a nightmare. With everything.
Yeah, absolute nightmare. So we lost a lot of time there. We lost time for it getting here, and then it's sitting in customs for however long it was, and then actually receiving it. And so therefore, the learning curve was extremely high for the guys. And then when it came to the crunch a couple of months before the Nintendo launch, which was an amazing event for us personally, we found some nuances in there that we needed to address immediately. And so therefore, some days went on for 3 days without sleep.
Right.
So that just give you an idea.
All right.
So, can you tell us a bit more about the setting? Like you have just you have said in the beginning of this interview that about the how you got your inspiration from Rajasthan. So, can you just expand on it?
Yeah, I think we all, when we started off, we wanted to tell a sibling story. That was something that we started the initial story of Raji with. So, and since Rajasthan architecture is one of the rich and there is iconic through, and it's something that's beautiful to depict in a game. And also because the idea that where I wanted to incorporate the Pahari paintings and the miniature paintings art style into the game to bring that simplicity yet intricate, beautiful work into the art itself. So I guess that's where both Rajasthan and the paintings art style kind of played well to bring into the game. So yeah, it was just one after the other that we felt that could sit well together. And from there we kept on building the concept. So, but yeah, from initially we were quite like made up our minds about the story about a sibling. So that was said, and from there we build up the story and we build the whole universe of how and why and everything. Like,
Ws.
yeah, like why is the brother taken away? What's the motive behind it? And it built up with time while we were working on the demo and prototype.
Yeah, there's a backstory for pretty much everything within the universe. Because we have to do that in order to ground everything, to make everything believable. Because otherwise, if you have all that, loose ends or something seems unfeasible, then you're not going to get that.
So since it was inspired by Rajasthan, so we looked into the tribes and also the different music, everything that would play a role in the game. So that's how Raji's background of where she comes from, her clothing, even she being a circus performer, her brother telling story about with the puppets. It's all comes from, it started building from one thing and the other, so the inspiration.
Even the color of her clothing.
Dress.
Yeah.
No, that was my tribute to it.
No, yeah, I know it was.
Yeah, but that's just not part of the universe.
No, but I mean, it's like, the whole character, so she stands out, and she's in red. And also on one of the levels, which is one of my favorite ones, which is the Mystic level, you got the green and then you got the red. So you got complementary colors. See?
Okay.
Right.
I mean, Raji stands out from the game just because she is dressed in red.
Yeah, but Shruti was also inspired from Transistor's Red.
Red, so that was kind of like a
Not tribute.
which
Yeah.
Red's
Red is
character.
a very strong color, to be honest.
So the story takes a rather unique approach for an action adventure game. The tale is based on siblings instead of the regular games that we see, and it's also in a mythological setting. Can you just tell us a bit about why did you choose this type of story, and how did you research about the mythological aspect of the game?
So the story was something, it just clicked away with all of us, and all of us have siblings. Like when the initial concept, all three of us have siblings. Paras has a sibling, Lenas has a sibling. So nobody said no to that, and I think we knew the moment you say this is a story of siblings, it by default makes it a bit more unique than everything out there, and that helped us. And we know some games have done that before, but it's rare. It's still a rarity. And regarding the mythological aspects, there was a lot of research involved with what we wanted to represent. And the first thought was that we wanted to create our own story and our own universe. We didn't want to do a copy paste of let's make a story about Mahishasura or Durga and you play as Durga. That is a bit, if anyone wants to do it, that's fine. But for us, we are creatives and we wanted to put our own spin at if we are making a game on, inspired by Hindu mythology. Now, apart from the research where we've ourselves learned a lot about many of these things, like Vishnu's avatars or things we did not know, Shiva's avatars. There was also a Q&A with some of our parents, like Shruti used to ask her mom about Durga's backstories and avatars, and we did murals of Durga and how she was formed. So you have to be sure about these things. You can't put something that's not sure. So we did check from multiple sources over the internet also, and you do find that storylines can go in some other branches, but we try to stick to what we figured was more widely accepted. And with that in mind, we were also keeping this as a constraint that we have to be respectful of what we're depicting. And these are some of the stories we have grown up. So, what's the best way to depict it, and also a way that it fits in a game? Because all these things can turn into wild features very, very, very soon, and then you can't complete them.
Right, right. So we recently played the demo on Steam, and it looked really impressive. The artwork, the music, the level design were all top notch, to be honest. And having been played so many mythology-based games in my life, like this was the one that really hit close to my heart. So can you please tell us about like how you went on about developing each one of these aspects in the game?
Well, art is Ian and Shruti, so I let them start.
Yeah,
Well,
like
mood
I
boards.
explained initially, so it's since it was inspired by Rajasthan, so the architecture had the levels had a lot of influence from the different parts of Rajasthan, say the forts or the palaces or even the ones that were open areas. We had more influences from different parts of India as well. So we kept in mind to do our research, look into, do a lot of mood boards, what suit that particular level. So apart from that, the art style, like I said, is inspired by the miniature and Pahari painting, which we think that like in we as India as a country has so much art and so much artisans, and slowly all this art is dying, and nobody is going to carry forward this kind of art in future generation. So it was kind of like preserving, it's kind of like paying an homage to those art. So yeah, that's how the art style came into being. And so it, each level, when Avi blocks it out and we have what the story is going to be like for that level, we would do an entire mood board, would say, so okay, this is the particular area or palace, or this kind of locations will suit well with the level that we are thinking about, and accordingly we would go ahead and start like jotting our
Yeah, because the
sketches.
levels were like, when I say blocked out, they were literally blocked out, right? Weren't they, Abby? Blocked.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, but you define them in different colours. So blue was water, green was something else. Anyway, brown was a rock. And then so, but that it was very important that we stuck to the volumes. And it basically, it was open season for us to interpret how we wanted to see it. And so Shu and I, like she was saying, we would split up the level, like, and we're basically telling a story all the way through, even with the environment assets, because an environment is a character, an asymmetrical character. So and so it's just literally like, it's like cooking. It's like, okay, well, I want a little bit of this, I want a little bit of that, and then it's like, okay, well, how are we going to make this look, where's the camera going to be coming in, etc. And we'll talk about all these aspects, and with Avi as well. And it's like, what are we wanting? What's the most important aspects of this particular level? What's the point of interest?
Yeah. And like we wanted to showcase different stuff in India, like which are beautiful things. Like when you go to different parts of India, you always have Rangoli, or like in Bengal it's Alpona, or things like that, where you have designs. It's a welcome sign, and I wanted to incorporate that in the environment. So if you see the platforms, they always have a certain design on them, so that's something representative of India. So we left all these little things in the art itself, like even the walls are used to tell story, like you would see in the Hindu temples, like the walls are used for sculptures to tell story of different gods. So we try to incorporate that in the game as well. Same as with the storytelling aspect, when you go and look at the paintings of telling the story of the gods and goddesses, the avatars, they are painted in a style like you would see in the Rajasthan palace, the plain worn out colors. So that's how we wanted to depict it in the game. So yeah, every corner is basically a nod and tribute to all aspects of India. So
Yeah, and it's something to be very proud of. I mean, it took an enormous amount of work, hence the dark eyes still. And then when it came from that, when we created the mood boards and we had the block out and so on, and then it went to our wonderful concept artist Anu, and under the guidance of Shruti, he would like sketch out, literally do like screenshots of the block out, and literally like say, right, these are the influences, this is what we want. Okay, go ahead and make them. And then within about a week's time, we'll come back with all this kind of stuff. By which time we moved on to all these different levels, and we're not waiting. Everything's continually moving.
And I would like to add that all the asuras in the game, they are inspired by Balinese mythology. So all their dressing, even their backstories, even the way they look, the mask, that entire art style is like inspiration from Balinese mythology. Because when me and Ian went there, we kind of found the common thread that they also have the same kind of myths that they follow. They believe in Ramayana, and so all this that we wanted to bring it together in the game.
It just made sense to bring it together, and it's just beautiful as well. I mean, the architecture there is gorgeous.
And the most interesting thing for us to find out was the amount of overlap we have with their culture and mythology and backstories. Like, there's a boss in our game called Ranga, and the more I read about it, the more fascinated I was. And I did see people on Twitter and YouTube losing their minds that this game has Ranga. And they were definitely from who knew about her, and that was something.
I mean, she's beautifully horrific to look at.
Even her backstory is, if you read about
her. No, you don't want to know the backstory. We won't say it.
Yeah. I'll just talk a bit about game design, level design, how animation plays a part, sound design, and even programming for what we've done in what you said, the demo. And it starts with the scope for all of us, which we did blow up out of proportion. But for the demo level, I think it was the level we started. Maybe we were a bit slow because we were still figuring out the process between all of us. It starts with paper level design for me. I try not to go into details, but the general flow of the level, points of interest, and you should have and also story. You have to be ready with what do you want to tell in this level. Only then, and what mechanics do I have to play with? Do I have wall runs? Do I have pillar jumps? Do I have this? Do I have that? And once I know I have this, then you create a pacing, and I follow some rules of threes and rules of 10s and 10 seconds and rule of 30 seconds and even rule of 60 seconds. So all those apply to the pacing. And when you finally have a template where the player is not going to get bored because of this template, you start asking yourself, is it really necessary? You ask some of your team members to play what you've done in the block out, and you will figure out a lot of things. And that's where iteration comes in, and level goes through a lot of iterations. My goal is always that the level should be as accurate before it goes to the artist, and because the more changes later, the more painful it is for everyone, because the number of assets which come in is insane. Not just art, sound, VFX. You have to move everything. If you have to move like a few apsaras, it's not as easy as it sounds. It will also require a light rebake, which is something we really hate now. And talking about process. So once I've done the block out, the first people to show it is environment artists, because we work closely. There was a point where in a couple of levels, Shruti did ask me to delete certain parts because they were going a bit too big, and that level was honestly is already the biggest.
Just a little bit, mate.
It's just the biggest level, and which was a good decision finally. It might make sense in the story or the pacing of the level but you have to realize you have only this many weeks to meet the deadlines, and if you don't do that, you can't keep on going forever. So you have to work smartly sometimes. And for how the camera works, our programmers made a system of dynamic camera boxes which interpolate values from up, literally from and to. So when Raji is passing through a camera, it's going through different values of FOV, roll, pitch, and yaw, and camera length. And that's where you have a more dynamic camera where we are able to zoom in sometimes or able to rotate. And the emphasis was always to lead the player and show the best parts of the environment. And it also plays about Raji's insignificance in this giant universe. And for sound design, what we did is we treated certain parts of the level as emotions. What emotion is to be depicted here? So if you notice, when you come to the ending of the runes level, which is the demon tree, the music changes. And that's intentional and pre-planned because we wanted to have this emotion of the demon tree corrupts, and if the post-process changes, the tone of the game changes, and because of that, you are able to feel a difference, and it sets you for that mini boss fight also. And for animation, a lot of us are running for Oscars, and leading is Shruti, I think.
No, it's
No,
He's
I
done
think,
one.
yeah, no, but he's the most iconic one.
He's the one who's done all the demons and all of
Yeah, mine ones you never saw because I never shared them. They only shared with him, animator. So for some animations which are humanly possible, we do try to give reference to an animator. It's much faster, much easier. It makes it clear what is a vision when we say Raji is waking up and what emotions are at play. And those are some of the fun things in animation. Then there's a whole technical side of it. When it goes inside the engine, you have to play a lot with how responsive the game should be when it comes to gameplay, and against how much animation emphasis do you have. So there was a lot of iteration involved in there. Yeah, I think that's there. But for characters, I think I'll let Ian speak about the characters. Where do they come from?
Oh, they're doing that quickly. All right. Again, they're just a lot of it. Obviously, Shruti is saying about influence from the Balinese side, and therefore we would write down or use like some of it was directed from game.
Ian,
Yeah, I think.
we lost him.
Did you lose Ian?
I'll just message him.
Design.
Sure. Yeah,
We lost you for a
Sorry.
second here.
Yeah, are we there? Are we there?
Yeah.
What did you lose?
Everything.
I think all of it.
Pretty much everything.
Oh, okay. All right. Everyone's frozen. Oh no. Okay. Oh God, I've got to start again. All right. So the characters, they are taking influence from the Balinese, and we took a lot of reference with regards to Avi. You know, it's like, you know, what are the requirements for this particular character? For instance, say Gadasura, because he's a tank, so he's big, he's bulky, he's going to be a brute. And
Just
so
to add there, Ian, we planned the demons as part of Mahabalasura's army, so they play an active role. And what if there was literally battlefield? What is the requirement?
yeah.
Go on, Ian.
So from there, again, it's a backstory. We have to build the ask the 5 Ws and the hows and so on. And so this had incorporated myself, Shruti, Avi, and Annie. No, I was going to mention Annie. Don't worry, he's going to come in. And then Annie, again, we've discussed this for hours. It's like, what's going on. Then again, he'd come back within, I'd say, a few days with some, and I would ask for an insane amount of silhouettes for the character. And again, we would all sit down and choose the ones that we thought were appropriate for that particular character. and then they would get nailed down, and then would say, and then this is iterations all the way through. And then eventually, when it came to the design of the face, I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Potato Head, but your character that you can take the nose off, put a different nose on, different mouth on, it's like that, right? So it's all that kind of stuff. Sorry?
Is it from Toy Story? I think there's a different show called Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, well, that toy is derived from the actual toy. So the toy isn't just from Toy Story.
That was Ian's favorite toy when he was a kid.
Going back quite a while. And so what we did is we devised a system whereby I asked Annie for 7 noses, 7 eyes, 7 ears, etc., and then we would play with them and we'd move them around until we all said, yeah, we like that one. And then he would make a line drawing, and then it would be like a color painterly finished art piece. And then after that, it would go to a character sheet, and then that character sheet would be given to myself or David. And then from there, we just literally make it, and then we'd just break it down, the body, the accessories, the eyes, etc. And yeah, I mean, it was a very good process that we utilized, the same process of the environment art. And just to give you an example of the amount of assets that were created for the actual environments, we're talking, was it around 3,000?
3,500 plus.
Yeah. So, and that was created within the time period that we've spoken about, so within, probably less than 18 months. So yeah, it was a very streamlined process. It was very practiced. And, Annie, we love him, but we want to kill him at the same time, because he would create things with so much detail that we would just go, oh God, we've got to make that. And with the environments as well, with all the beautiful architecture, we were able to deconstruct elements, and then from there we would make modular kits, and then we could actually swap and change all the way around. So that's what made it really, really interesting as well.
Right.
So, is there any sorry about departments? We missed VFX.
Ted.
So for VFX again, it comes from characters first, characters, and before that abilities. What abilities apply? Then comes the animation. Once we have the animation, then Ani does a few sketches, and I provide references, or we provide references about what it should look like for whatever. It's a spitting orb, or it's a pool of acid, or it's a mace.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Shall we wait for Ian to come back? Okay. So one of the biggest things everyone wants to hear from you is the funding. We know that there was initially a Kickstarter and later there were issues with the funding. So how did you keep going after that, and what are the obstacles did you face?
Oh,
is everyone frozen? Or is everyone here? Oh, we're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Questions about funding after the Kickstarter failure. How did we keep things going?
Painfully.
Dividing, we used to order food and cut it in 3 different portions.
No,
I'm kidding. But it wasn't
lavish, I'll tell you. It was like being a student again.
Yeah, we just had to pay the bills, pay rent, and have food on table. That was the basic that we had to survive on, and made sure that the small team that we had, we were able to pay them. So we 3 never took salary at that point of time. Our only motive was to pay our rent and food. That's it. So
and the guys that we employed.
So we poured in, 3 of us have poured in all our savings into this till we did the Kickstarter demo. And once the Kickstarter didn't work, that's when we all were like, oh shit moment, because we didn't have a plan B. We didn't think that our Kickstarter will fail. So we were desperately looking for publishers, investors, and we were talking to anyone and everyone at that point of time. So that's when to sustain the team, I had to sell my apartments. That was on just like a backup plan. But since we didn't have the Kickstarter, so I had to sell the apartment to buy us more time so we can find a publisher. And within that time, we also applied for an Unreal Dev grant. So that's when we were almost running out of the money that my apartment poured into the company. We actually ended up getting the dev grant, so that bought us few more months so that
6 months, I
we
think.
could continue our talks with our present publisher super.com. So yeah, we've spoken to a lot of publishers, a lot of investors. Everybody used to love the game, but at the end moment,
They would rescind their offer.
yeah, they would just back out. And like nobody, for some, I think it was the risk that we were a first time company, and that to a team from India. So there was a lot of risk. So yeah, I think it took a long time for us to get where we are. But yeah, Super came in October, as Avi said before, October 2018. That's from where we started the actual game production. So
Yeah, it's been very, very difficult. If we were based in Europe, we would have had grants that we could have applied for. There's nothing like that here. The Indian investors, well, I'll let you talk about that.
yeah, it's like also the maturity of the industry it's quite new industry in India, so it's still young. So a lot of investors do not understand the concept of what goes into the development of PC and console games. They just can you just tell him to take Tommy? So so he so what happens is when we were pitching the game to them, they were expecting us to finish everything in 6 months. They wanted quick return, and that is because they were more used to the mobile market, because the games in India are mostly for mobiles. So they expected us to also finish everything in 6 months, which is not possible for a PC game or a console game. So the concept of PC game was pretty new for people who wanted to invest in India. So I think it's growing. People are understanding, and that India can also make games that can go on PC and consoles as well. But it takes a lot more time and investment than a mobile game would need. So yeah.
So, can you please tell us more about the gameplay of project? What games inspired you, and how did you come up with the parkour and combat system?
Yeah, so gameplay first inspirations are games that we love. The first thing we did is to make a list of games we love. It's a long list. We did write a dev blog on IndieDB. It's called Design Inspirations or something. That was 2 years ago. And in that, there's many games: Dark Souls, Devil May Cry, Prince of Persia, Bastion, Transistor, Hyperlight Drifter, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, even Uncharted, and some other games.
Journey.
Oh yeah, Journey. So lot of games went behind asking ourselves, what do we want to create? Oops, she's awake and not happy with the pigeons.
Your turn now.
Yeah. So what happened is before Kickstarter, yeah, just to get to that quality of where the demo was of Kickstarter, and we were an extremely small team. It left us with very little time to try to experiment a lot. The gameplay for the Kickstarter demo was pretty simple, but it was also engaging. So it was not something that was received negatively, but we knew ourselves we got to push this. And when we started asking ourselves how, we looked at Raji's backstory, which is where she is an acrobat, a circus performer, and that totally fit with a new design theme we came up with, which was movement leads to combat. Something that has been also proven in some games like Prince of Persia or God of War. and we did think it will fit Raji, but we have to give it our own touch. And that's where we started exploring the possibility of triple dodge, and that became the core of the game. So Raji can do three different dodges: a dodge roll, cartwheel, and a front flip or a back flip. And all of them lead to different attacks, right? So with that a theme in place, movement leads to combat. What was happening at the same time, we were exploring Parker. Why we were exploring Parker is also because we were a camera for Kickstarter. Of course, because of the scope was limited. We couldn't explore more. But with the new, prototyping, we started exploring a Parker system which included ledges, pillars, wall runs, and with that, of course, the level becomes more dynamic, and because of that, the camera becomes more dynamic. So that's where camera Parker started going to a step further. And because of Parker, we also already had the wall run animations and wall run mechanics, and movement leads to combat theme fits right in. So wall run attacks or attacks using pillars or attacks or wall run on certain objects, those definitely worked for us for all the weapons. And that's how we came up with the combat. And this was something we knew straight off the moment we freed Raji of that heavy anticipation that was back then in Kickstarter, and we went for more responsiveness and acrobat, which also was coming, in getting inspired from some of the martial arts from India, and because of those things, we were able to move to a new level with combat, with Parker, and with the camera. All these three things were like big changes compared to what the game was before.
Okay. So now that we know something about the gameplay of Razi, so can you like tell us something about the difficulty? What sort of difficulty can we expect in Razi, and what kind of enemy variety can we expect? So, like behind the designing of the enemy, the character design, what sort of inspirations did you take, and the variety of enemies that we can see in the game?
Since you mentioned Dark Souls, how much similar is it to Dark Souls or Prince of Persia bosses? And
Oh, so see, Dark Souls was inspiration for a Kickstarter demo, and why I will not say the gameplay of Dark Souls. I will say the animations of Dark Souls, because we did pay a lot of emphasis on the weight of animations, and because of that, if you see the Kickstarter demo, which was in 17, things are a bit slower, but they also look better because the entire animation is playing. And of course, we had to drop that. And our game used to, even now, it keeps getting compared to Prince of Persia and God of War, which is great. But when it comes to specialist combat, I always feel Prince of Persia is totally, for me, the core mechanic is time reversal and everything to do with the dagger and the mechanics around it. All the combat nuances are also similar, but we try to do our own thing with some of them. Of course, the inspiration comes in when we look at wall run attacks or pillar attacks. Uh, and when God of War, that comparison is something, the first time I think someone put out an article, Indian God of War, we were like, no, don't do that. Because we are a team of like 10 people back then, and we were like scared to see that, because of course they have thousands of people, and they've been doing this for far too long. But I think people are comparing us to the first God of War, the PSP God of War, which is still okay. And yeah, I mean, we try to our own list of inspiration: Bastion, Hyperlight Drifter. These games were there, and Journey, but we also try to put our own twist to whatever we're doing in Raji. And about AI variety, you will like see a new AI across the levels, and even variations of those, and some interesting boss fights. And I think we already spoke about how and where the inspiration for them
Right.
came from. Yeah.
So, can you please tell us about the coding that went in the game? I heard that you were using Unity. then you shifted to Unreal Engine.
Yeah, that we can tell you. Yeah, Shruti.
Just coffee.
Okay. Yeah, it was down to some water. Yeah, because initially the game was meant to be 2D, and then Shrew, I modelled all the assets in 3D, and then I gave them to Shruti to do paint overs, and then some of the assets I actually gave to Avi, and then he would utilise them in such a way that I never thought they would be used. So there was that aspect to it as well. And we realised very early on that Shrew painting over every asset was it wasn't realistic. We'd still be here doing it. So it's as simple as that. And also Shrew's got 3D background as well. So are you okay to continue?
Yes, so I guess because we had such limited time and fund was one of the reason that having the quality that we wanted to deliver, we couldn't have gone the route of doing it 2D, because then it would be just me painting at that point of time, and we couldn't have been finishing the stuff we even needed to, especially the Kickstarter demo. And also with Paras and Jale, our tech artists, when they came into the team, their strengths were they have already made a game in Unreal Engine. So it was a natural choice for us to move to that engine, because the team had experience in making a game in that engine. Whereas even though I had experience in Unity, but for us to learn the other side of Unreal wouldn't have been such a bad jump, because it's just for us, it's not that big a deal. It's not bad.
It's just another game engine.
Yeah. So it was a natural choice to move. And also for, like Ian mentioned, we being most predominantly 3D artists in the industry. So it was faster and better for us to make the environments or the art in 3D rather than in 2D. And also it wouldn't restrain the scope with the tile system. At least when we make everything in 3D, it can be utilized any which way, can be utilized in any level, any direction, and however we want it. So it opened up a lot more possibilities. So yeah, that's the
And talking about coding, what I can tell you is we did a lot of dirty blueprints just to get to the fast forward the process of prototyping. And of course, you have to discard that and do it either clean blueprints or code it out. So that's what we did. And yeah, don't want to talk more about coding because Paras is not here. And I might say something that don't make
Completely
sense.
wrong.
So while we love the fact that the game is coming to PC and consoles, since mobile gaming is like really popular in India, why didn't you go for any mobile game release, or why was the game released on Nintendo Switch instead of Steam or PS4 or Xbox, which are actually the major consoles right now? So can you please tell us a bit about that?
So first question about mobile games. If you just look at how storytelling games do in mobile, you will figure that they do really bad on Android. Not because they're bad games, just because Android market is not either mature enough or are not big spenders. And even for free to play, I worked at Zynga, so I know these facts that most money is made on iOS, which is fine. So for a game like us, I think it was really funny back in 2017, way early, when some of our own friends or someone used to say, "Why don't you make mobile first?" And that way you can get earnings and do all that. And the first thing is we say no, we don't want to do that because this games how the vision we had. Okay, so you can't just transfer a vision to someone, right? They would understand, but the vision, if you look at the graphics of Raji, they don't work for mobile. And even to do so, it's insane amount of porting. And who has experience in the team for making an Android game, iOS game? Paras had made games for Android, but we are talking about the full 4 or 5 hours of experience on mobile. That's whole different ball game. So mobile was never a part of our plan. There was no reason to do it because that's not where storytelling games sell, and that's one of the big facts. And talking about why Switch, I let Ian or Shruti go about this. Why
I,
Switch first and
I
not?
think it's not the choice that we made. So we were handpicked by Nintendo to be a part of the event, and it's a big privilege and an honor for a studio that's making its first game and it's out of India to be a part of an event like that that's been handpicked by Nintendo. So, and it was a timely exclusive deal. So, and we couldn't speak about it. We had to be completely secretive about it. So that's I think, and that was a huge way to put the game out there and reach the masses, because there's a lot of people internationally watch this event. And we also had a lot of people, like our community, have been saying this, that this is such a good game for Switch. So we thought it was a natural choice for us to be on Nintendo's.
And it was also nice to be, it's almost like a seal of approval.
Yeah.
And indie game word, right?
Say again?
I'm just saying that getting an offer or like getting picked for an event like that is what indie game developers dream of. So when that happened, it's something we were like, in awe of what
So
the
to
game has
launch your
managed.
game on an event like that, and that to a team that is making its first game and is from India, it's a big deal. And we had to grab the opportunity. We couldn't have said no to
There
that.
weren't going to be many opportunities like this coming along, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as we launched, many people were shocked. A lot of our supporters from Kickstarter were like emailing us, like saying congratulations and so on. Lots of other people were contacting us, weren't they? So it's been a very emotional that period for all of us, because we've been working day and night for over 3 years, including the Kickstarter and all the way through. So we've poured enormous amount of effort and time into what we've created, and I think it's something to be very proud of, and also to be very proud that the fact that we are representing India, albeit I'm not, but I live here in India. I'm not going to be moving anytime soon. And it's just fantastic to be able to say, fly the flag for India on the international development map. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to say that there is talent here in India. And yeah.
So our next question is that a lot of people wanted to ask actually is that a lot of games have regional audio, right? And gamers here really want to know that, especially this being one of the first console and PC game made in India and set in India. So can we expect something like that in any future updates, like say a Hindi audio option?
So for that, right, we've talked about this internally. We know people have been asking about it, and we have a very good reason why we didn't do it, because the game was being aimed for a global launch, and the first choice was to have a language which people understand and relate to. Now, Hindi is something we did not consider because we were pitching to international publishers, and believe me, they don't hear a pitch from India every day or every year. It's a rare thing, and now there was specifically this point where I think the idea was, some people did ask if people will feel alienated towards the game, if and that happens. It can happen. Some people can be put off by a particular setting, and because of that, because India is not a region known for sales in PC and console, especially for indie games. Maybe for other games it does better. but indie games don't do well in India. Even if we made Raji an Indian game, we were not sure how is the game gonna do in India. And believe me, voice actors and the whole process of adding a audio to your narration to your game is insanely uh, it takes a lot of time and lot of iterations. A lot of lines have to be re-spoken. Shruti and me, Shruti, Paras, me, we did placeholders just to get a feeling of what we need to go from. Then our voice actors were selected, the whole process of selecting them, going with them, reiterating, putting aspects on them, trying out different things. So this takes months. Okay, it literally, I don't even remember now, probably 8 months or something from the very first narration of the actual voice actors to what it is. Then, of course, they have to be subtitles for all of them. And believe me, it's for a small team like us, adding another language was just not possible in this duration. But in the future, will we have more, like especially like Hindi or not? It depends a lot upon the sales of the game. I know there's a demand for it. We know that, we are aware of that, but we would like to see if if it's going to work or not, because it's also business at the end of the day. Now let's say we put Hindi and the sales in India are just 500 copies, then there was no point of doing that.
Yeah, we have to justify it.
Yeah,
It's a
especially
simple.
when you're working with a publisher, right? You're not just everything's not under your control, and you can't just do anything you like. But it would be nice to see how the game's received in India. There are a lot of expectations. The game is picking up on YouTube and social media, so we are expecting positive results. And if that happens, definitely the possibilities are open in the future.
So, since there are actually very few games being developed totally in India, can you tell us your opinion about the Indian gaming scenario on PC and consoles as of now? Like, how do you feel it has evolved over the years?
Well, I know a few studios that have been doing good, and that includes Ogre Head Studios and Holy Cow Studios and Sigma Games. But I will also say the growth of these studios, or the number of studios, is extremely slow, and it's for reasons we know already. The whole game development environment is still picking up. It's pretty slow. Hopefully, it picks up faster, and that's what I feel about the growth. It's a bit slow. Things will probably improve, but it is still there's a lot of pain points involved when it comes to making games in PC console. Well, funding is one of the biggest one. We know there are some people trying to change it. If you look over Lumikai Fund, they are ready to invest into PC and console games, something we didn't hear about when we were starting. When we were starting, it was every investor was interested in mobile games, and even now, majority will be. I'm sure it doesn't change overnight. All these things. Now, I don't know about there's probably a couple more studios, but uh, that's the thing that you can count them on one hand, right? And that's not enough for the Indian gaming industry. And only when it grows exponentially, you will also see more and more quality games and quality content made in India, coming from India, maybe even about India.
Right.
So, a lot of gamers nowadays want to go into game development. So, do you have any words of advice for them?
Yeah, Ian, Shruti,
Yeah,
don't
I think
die,
we have to start learning. Like,
don't kill each other.
yeah. Communicate is crucial. Communication is crucial. But also have the passion, keep the passion. Because if you don't have the passion, even especially what we've gone through with the crunch that we've done, many people would not have survived what we've done. And I'm not just saying that. And that is the truth.
but I would say that it just doesn't end with playing games or having the passion for it, but you also have to understand what goes behind it, like
Yeah.
all the work that needs to be done. There is, every department has its own speciality, and there is a lot of hard work that goes into each department. If there is something that you're specially interested in, you have to learn about the stuff, whether it's the software. And right now you have everything on the internet. There
Yeah.
are online classes, master classes by best of the artists, designers, everything is out there. Engine has their own tutorials. So if you have the passion for it, if you do really want to do something, you just have to go out and
Do
learn.
it.
And
It's like there's no excuses. That's it.
Yeah, one very important thing I would like to add is what an observation I've been seeing over the internet is a lot of game developers, even some people who messaged me on Discord after Raji and were wanting help. And I know AAA games exist, GTA exists, Horizon Zero Dawn exists, PUBG exists, or other games exist, big games. But I do feel some of the game developers are not playing all genres. My personal advice would be you got to play all genres, play everything out there, then find where you fit. Not the first AAA game you've played and you want to
Don't
make.
clone it.
yeah.
I mean, this is something I hope does not happen. I hope I'm proven wrong. A lot of people want to make GTA or PUBG open world. Like they have no idea what's waiting out there to tell them.
The work it goes into making a game like
It's insane. It's insane. And I want people, I want to hear conversations about Baba Is You, brilliant indie game from 2019. Genesis Noir, it's an upcoming game which involves jazz music and puzzles. Amazing art style. People have to play indie games, and I'm someone who's done paper. I loved Papers, Please, Faster Than Light, and so many other indie games, Braid, Bastion, all these. It just feels to me, I was talking to someone and they didn't know about this, but they knew the other side, which was Horizon Zero Dawn, GTA, open world, third person RPG, action, adventure. And when I have conversation with the palace a few years ago, I would say these are all red flags that no one should be waving, that I'm going to make an open world third person action adventure. You don't have to play Witcher 3 and go that I have to make Witcher 3. Witcher 3 is already made, dude. Like you gotta make something else that gonna work, because that's not how the industry works. That's all. People want to make Fall Guys now. Like there's a whole Fall Guys army waiting to be released.
yeah, but probably also they can start small.
Yeah, they
like
have to.
game jams are good ways. Yeah.
Exactly. Like how many people, how many game developers are taking part in Ludum Layers? Ludum Dare, I think it's pronounced. I took part in like 5 or 6 of them, and it's fantastic. You get real feedback there. There's thousands of people there. I think in one, it's 8,000 games are made in 48 hours, and you get ranked. People actually take time to rank you, and I think that's where people need to go, start small. And there's a lot of failures waiting for you to make you understand. And Horizon Zero Dawn took 8 years. People want to make it, and I have no problem. You want to make it, go ahead and make it. Make something else or make an Indian version of it. But I just personally feel that's not where the industry needs to go. It needs to find their own passion, and it shouldn't be about making it like AAA. You've got to think first about making your first paycheck. Will this game make profit? Will you break even?
I just want to add to that as well. There's just like, expect to fail as well. Don't just keep going in there thinking I'm going to be, cresting every wave, all the time. Failure is good because one, it grounds you as an individual, but also as a team. Then you can reevaluate where you've gone wrong and how you've gone wrong and how you can improve on those things. We've had to do that many times, and it's tough. It's really tough. And especially when you're making a game, not just in India, anywhere, with a business, etc., that we're in, If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Right? It's that simple. We're doing it. We love what we do, and I hope it shows throughout what from what we've produced. But also, I want you to remember the 3 P's as well, and that is practice, practice, practice. Because if you don't do that, it's going to turn into piss poor performance, right? And this is what I told my students all the way through. All right, I had a laugh and a giggle with it, but it's true. It's like you've got to practice. You've got to love your field of what you do, and drown yourself in it. Look at other artists. Look at designers. Don't just look at one particular thing. And it's like someone, again, when we finished or when we're coming to launch it, someone messaged me on Discord and said, what was your budget? And I said, listen, think about the bloody game first. Don't worry about your budget. Think about what you've got to do. The budget that doesn't even come into it.
Yeah, the thing is, if you don't have a pitch which sells, especially to even your own team, maybe it can sell to your own team. Like, I'm a game designer, and when I make a pitch, it has to sell to your own teams. Then imagine selling it to a publisher, and I can tell that is the most hardest thing to do, because your pitch is going to raise you money, your pitch and your prototype. And unfortunately, it's hard. You will not get funds and hundreds and thousands of dollars. Maybe you will. You have rich uncles, maybe. Hopes if you're lucky. If you're not, then you're totally not like us. And we did not. We had help from our family only after a certain point when we were able to sell the game even to our own families. We didn't just show up, Dad, I'm just gonna make this game. It's gonna release 3 years later. And just show something, and we did have artwork, concept art, a pitch, and some articles. All of those things add up. That's all. I mean,
So another question is that other than Nottinghead Games, which is doing pretty great job, so can you please tell us about some other Indian studios and that we should definitely follow as a gaming community? Like, what other games can we expect from other Indian studios in the near future?
I think I spoke about Ogrehead.
Yeah.
Ogrehead Studios, and they are making the new turn-based game. It's I think it's Yodha, right? It's also inspired loosely Indian mythology. Then you have Zigma Games. They just released the game called Bonfire 2 on Steam. Hurricane has done a lot of other things. They keep making new stuff. So they did a game called Mystic Pillars, and then they done a racing game, and I don't know what they're doing next. So
Even I think Untitled Sanchar is going on for a while. But
yeah, it's
they've
called
got very interesting art style, and music is really something to look forward to.
yeah.
So, lastly,
Oh, there's another studio in Mumbai. I'm forgetting its name. It's friends of one of programmers. They are making a game which is a simulation management game of which is in early access. Now, what's the name? Shit. It's on Steam somewhere. I'll send you a link. Maybe it's a very new studios, and I didn't have a conversation with them since a year, so I've forgotten everything.
Okay.
So lastly, we know you are all pretty exhausted after working on Raji, and this exhaustion is surely continue till October 15th or even longer. But even then, you must have had some ideas, even if not full-fledged game ideas, but some ideas for your next project. Can you share a bit about them?
To be continued. We're going to have a break. We need a break.
Yeah, we've not thought about it that far because we've been so busy with Raji, knowing that it's such a small team. We had to give everything to our first game, so we've not thought about the future yet. We just wanted to do our best for this game so that it sells and it makes the money for us and our publisher. So
that it sets us up for the future, so that we can make other inspired games from the Indian continent. So
yeah, but that's the motto, as Ian said, that's the motto of the studio, that we want to tell stories from India, stories that is inspired by Indian mythology, that has things that are inspired and pays a nod to Indian culture. So yeah, that's what is gonna come up coming from our studio, but we just don't know what it is yet.
So we have no more questions. Thank you for being with us today. It was really great.
It's really nice talking
Uh,
to you guys.
and we
It
hope
was
Raji
great.
becomes a roaring success and wish you all the best for your future games.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and all the best for your next 15 days. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes. Bye bye.
yeah.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
bye. Yeah, thank you.
Watch.